Number one of the greatest single half performances I've ever seen in basketball. I've fully watched all of Magic, all of Bird, all of Chuck, all of Jordan, Ewing, Olajuwon, all of them. It was one of the best halves. It was in the top 5 best offensive halves of basketball I've ever seen.
What Caitlin Clark just did in her first game back from injury went far beyond a solid performance. She left the entire basketball world, and even her opponents on the court, in absolute awe. And the stakes couldn't have been higher. After a 5-game absence that left the Fever struggling and the WNBA in absolute shambles, Caitlin gave us a performance for the ages that left no doubt about who's in charge of the WNBA.
Yup, I'm gonna say it. Caitlin Clark is the best basketball player in the world. She's the best basketball player that I have ever seen. She is the difference maker. She is the needle mover. She is the face of basketball right now.
In fact, there was a 38-second sequence of Caitlin Clark magic that showed exactly why she is the one. It had everything: range, swagger, and most importantly, an understanding of the moment. With the spotlight on her, with the league on the ropes, she delivered the goods only the way she can. Even Liberty players and their coach couldn't hide their reactions. In a world of sound bites and snapshots, this may have been the most important game and, more specifically, 38 seconds in WNBA history. And you can tell not only by her opponent's reaction, but from the haters absolutely grasping at straws to tear her down. They're getting more desperate by the day. Let's get into everything that happened. But first, like this video if you were hyped to see her return, and drop a W in the comments if you watched the game like I did. Okay, let's quickly set the stage, because this wasn't just any ordinary game. As we all know, Caitlin Clark missed 5 games with an injury, and during that stretch, the WNBA got a rude and instant reality check about what life without Caitlin looks like. The Fever went 2-3 without her, including a humbling loss to the Connecticut Sun. But what was worse was how they were losing.
Wow, the Indiana Fever are just not fun to watch without Caitlin Clark.
The run-and-gun team that everyone fell in love with, the one fans expected to see, was suddenly playing slower than the DMV on a Tuesday morning. And here's the truth. If the Fever aren't playing fun, fast, Caitlin Clark-style basketball, it's not just Indiana that suffers. The entire league takes the hit. And man, did they ever feel it.
You know, she better get back soon, because out of sight, out of mind.
Ratings imploded faster than an amateur submarine, dropping over 50% league-wide during Caitlin Clark's absence. And to make matters worse, the vacuum left behind wasn't filled with highlight reels. It was filled with compilations of Angel Reese missing layups and Dejounte Carrington trying to fill the chaos void left by Kennedy Carter. Meanwhile, the casual fans, the ones the league desperately needs to grow, were tuning out. Because without Caitlin, the energy, the excitement, and the product just wasn't there. And it's not as if the casual fans had been treated well to begin with.
The media, I felt like, mishandled so many things with the WNBA last season, and specifically with Caitlin Clark and her fan base. And that's one thing when you start thinking about how many people stopped watching when Caitlin Clark got injured. A lot of people stopped watching because they are boycotting the WNBA. They don't want to give viewership to any other teams or any other players, whether they like other players on the team or not, because of how the media and the league itself has handled Caitlin Clark.
It was the ultimate find out moment for a league that had just dragged Indiana fans through a 10-day hate speech investigation based on unsubstantiated rumors, while at the same time ignoring obvious vitriol toward Fever players. And this, of course, came after months of media and players trashing those same fans, accusing them of not being real basketball fans.
The new fans are sucking the f***ing life out of the WNBA right now.
So when it was finally announced that Caitlin Clark was cleared to play, you could almost hear the collective sigh of relief from the Fever and the league. And the timing and stage couldn't have been better scripted.
Get open. 1 second left. Clark doesn't get the shot off. Cloud locks her up.
The last time we saw Caitlin Clark on the court, she was getting fouled on a game-tying attempt with no call as the clock expired, handing the Liberty a 90-88 win. That game hit a record peak viewership of 3.3 million, which, as we all saw, plummeted the moment Caitlin was ruled out. So now, she was returning, against that same undefeated Liberty team with the Fever struggling in her absence. And everyone had the same two questions. How would she look, and just how much could she elevate this team the moment she stepped back on the court? And man, we were in for a show.
This was an unbelievable ass-kicking by Caitlin Clark.
Despite Caitlin scoring and making some great passes, the Fever were down big early. But then, Caitlin turned the game on its head. In what might go down as the most impactful 38 seconds in WNBA history to this date, she completely flipped the script.
And Cunningham is down behind the play, but they've got Caitlin Clark. Two players with incredible Clark, another long three. She's back!
She stepped up and drilled 3 deep three-pointers in a row, each one more confident and more electric than the last. It completely transformed the game, flipped the momentum, and set the tone for everything that was about to follow. It wasn't just a scoring run, it was a statement, and it sent the sports world into a frenzy.
3 threes in 38 seconds in the first half. Caitlin Clark hit 3 logo bombs, by the way. 3 logo bombs in 38 seconds. This was the Caitlin Clark we all said, oh, she's different. She's sent from outer space. The Caitlin Clark that we saw today was the Caitlin Clark that we were accustomed to seeing. Oh, it feels good, folks.
It was yet another iconic moment for Caitlin Clark, right up there with that long bomb 3 from the Brazil game that had everyone talking. She has a knack for rising to the occasion, not just performing under pressure, but doing it with flair. She doesn't just deliver on the court. She gives the fans exactly what they came to see.
The Caitlin Clark show is very real, and Caitlin Clark's ability to rise to the moment and put on a show is remarkable.
There's just like a certain star quality and like star power there, but it takes you being confident enough, willing enough to be like, oh, no. I know what you want. Come here. I'm going to give it to you. I loved it so much.
And that was only the beginning. She already had the crowd fired up and social media in a frenzy, but what she did next left even her opponents on the court in absolute awe. Later in the first half, Caitlin hit a nasty step-back 3, and not just on anyone, on Breanna Stewart, a former MVP and one of the league's best. And Stewie's reaction was absolutely priceless.
The second-year players clearing out that side of the floor, shooting on Stewie, and then watch the reaction with one another. Stewie's laughing. Caitlin knows it's ridiculous. Just out there having a good time with it.
Stewie couldn't help but smile after what Caitlin just pulled off, and that tells you everything you need to know. Even better, in the background, the Liberty head coach was clapping and smiling too.
Right in Stewie's face, and Stewie couldn't help but laugh. Couldn't help but laugh. Caitlin Clark letting her have it. And folks, look at Sandy Brondello. Sandy Brondello can't even hate. Sandy, you can hate. You need to appreciate, folks.
When you've got the opposing MVP and the other team's head coach visibly appreciating the moment, you know you're witnessing something special. That's how impactful Caitlin's performance was. Even her opponents couldn't help but respect it. And honestly, this should be seen as a great moment for the game, if the haters and the media will allow it. I'll get to them in a minute. At the end of the day, all of this should be about growing the game, and Caitlin Clark lighting it up on the court, playing with joy, and bringing millions of fans along with her. That's exactly what the league needs. Anyway, the Fever went into halftime with the lead, and Caitlin had just delivered one of the most electric first-half performances we've ever seen.
Caitlin Clark just scored 25 points, and the quarters in the WNBA are shorter, not as long, as the quarters in the NBA.
Caitlin dropped 25 points in the first half alone, and that was with head coach Stephanie White rotating her in and out of the game. The commentators even made a great analogy, comparing it to hockey shifts, because Caitlin was going full throttle every minute she was on the floor. She was leaving it all out there, and let's be real. If it were up to her, she probably would have played the whole game. But this was her first game back, against the top team in the league, and she was clearly gassed. So heading into the second half, she was going to need some help, especially from a Fever squad that, honestly, wasn't doing much offensively in the first half outside of Caitlin.
The shooting from Howard, Boston, and Kelsey. Kelsey started making a bit of a comeback shooting, but at one point, she was awful in this game. I mean, her shooting percentage was I believe 22% on like 14 attempts or something. It was bad at one point.
I remember at one point early on, Caitlin had 17 points, and the rest of the Fever had 18. That's how much of the offensive load she was carrying. She was the engine, the spark, and the reason they were in the game. But in the second half, even though she didn't play as many minutes, her teammates finally stepped up when it mattered. They hit big shots, made smart plays, and started playing with the energy and confidence that's been missing without her.
Kelsey Mitchell was plus 21, Aaliyah was plus 10. They went on a run in the fourth quarter without Caitlin Clark. And a big reason for that, if I'm going to criticize her when things are bad, I'm going to praise her when things are good. Because Sid Colson did exactly what she was meant to do. She did exactly what she was meant to do. And what she did was push the pace, play aggressive defense, and run.
The last few minutes of the game were a formality, with the Fever and the Liberty simply running out the clock on their possessions. The Indiana Fever had taken down the league's only remaining undefeated team, which was a stark contrast to the team that had recently lost to the winless Connecticut Sun just a few games earlier. And it was all because of Caitlin's performance, which wasn't just strong, it was record-setting.
Stephanie White did sub her out, I think, more than we would have seen had she been playing. And guys, she almost had a triple-double in this game. 8 rebounds, 9 assists, 32 points. By the way, let me point, and 2 block shots. That's one of the most ridiculous stat lines you will ever frickin' see from any player, WNBA or NBA, either one.
In fact, she became the only player in WNBA history to record that stat line. Not bad for your first game back from injury. And here's something even crazier. Caitlin Clark already has more 30-point games in her young career than 96.7% of all WNBA players in history. She's only 23. But it wasn't just Caitlin that came back, it was the return of something just as important, Fever basketball.
That is what I like to call Fever basketball. The Indiana Fever have come out and dominated.
With Caitlin on the court, the Fever played a much more exciting, up-tempo style of basketball, the exact kind of game fans fell in love with. Gone was the slow, half-court slog they were running without her. With Caitlin back, the pace picked up, the ball moved, and the offense actually had rhythm. It was fast, fluid, and fun. Everything this team is supposed to be.
That's how the Fever are supposed to play basketball, up-tempo, unselfish, working for your teammates, so really proud of our group.
This is totally anecdotal, but this was actually the first game my wife watched. She's not a huge sports fan by any stretch, but she tuned in because it was Caitlin's return, and she watched from start to finish. Her reaction at the end? That was exciting. And honestly, it was. Sure, we could nitpick missed shots, questionable rotations, and yeah, there were plenty of phantom calls.
Forget the referees. The referees. This was apparently a foul. This was apparently a foul on Lexi Hull. And there were so many of them throughout the game. Breanna Stewart shot 14 free throws. Stewie shot 14. Half of them phantom fouls.
And yeah, I have no idea what the refs were doing reviewing Kelsey Mitchell's three-pointer. She was a mile behind the line. But honestly, when Caitlin Clark is on the court, it's must-watch basketball. And this game was no different. And now, while the Liberty and Lynx were widely considered the top teams in the league, this one game may have changed everything.
The Indiana Fever just put up 102 points on the Liberty. The best offense in the WNBA is not the Lynx. It is not the Fever, or it is not like whoever's putting up the most points. It's not the Aces, none of these. The best offense in the WNBA is Caitlin effing Clark.
Dropping 102 points on the Liberty, the top team in the league, is absolutely insane. That's not just a win, it's a statement. And guess what? It's likely that a record number of viewers witnessed it.
By the way, that was an MVP performance from Caitlin Clark against a team on national television. And guys, I'm going to call it. I think this game might have averaged 3 million viewers today. I think there's a chance.
I agree with this take. I think this game draws an average of over 3 million viewers. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if it peaked between 3.5 and 4 million. If you're watching this after the viewership numbers are out, drop a check or an X in the comments to let me know if I'm right or wrong. And you know it was a big cultural moment because the haters came out screaming. Get this, some people are actually saying it was scripted.
All they were talking about at halftime, viral tweets being like, Caitlin Clark is a disgrace, her body language, and it's like, man, she just dropped 25 points. You just hate Caitlin. And I'm looking, WNBA threads is even hilarious. I'm just going to say is I hate Caitlin Clark, no way around it. She makes me the F sick. You will not convince me the WNBA is not scripted. I'm 100% certain now. And this is apparently scripted for Caitlin Clark. They put the magnets on the basket apparently.
The whole body language thing was especially hilarious. Critics were grasping at straws, pointing to Caitlin throwing her hands up when Natasha Howard didn't pass her the ball, even though she was wide open and on fire. Like, come on, when someone's got the hot hand, you feed them. That's just basketball. That's being competitive. And honestly, when people are resorting to nitpicking body language, you know you've done something massive. I wouldn't be surprised if the people picking on Caitlin for getting too fired up were the same ones defending Angel Reese when she stormed at Caitlin after getting fouled. Anyway, at the end of the day, you could tell the players understood the magnitude of the moment. Just check out some of the post-game comments from the Liberty.
Obviously, we know what a great shooter she is, and I think we just gave her too many easy ones. Obviously, she has great range, and her ability to get her shot off is really impressive, especially with missing some games. And so obviously on a personal level, I'm really happy to see her back out on the court, healthy, feeling good, because obviously it's important for them, but just for her, I'm happy she's back.
The players know it. They saw what happened to the league in just 5 games without Caitlin Clark. She's not just a rising star, she's the best thing to ever happen to the WNBA. I recently saw a clip of Magic Johnson describing the definition of a superstar, and while he wasn't talking about the WNBA, it 100% applies to Caitlin Clark.
Define a superstar. A person who can go on the road and sell the building.
There we go. It's a simple definition.
Simple. I'm going to see that person, right?
So you ain't talking skill on the court, that's it. You talk about
draw,
box office.
Yeah, you gotta be
Magic's in town, you're going to the game.
Caitlin is the only player who can make casual fans show up, tune in, and care. Again, what are the odds of my wife watching a WNBA game on a Saturday afternoon before Caitlin Clark? 0. That's the Caitlin Clark effect. And the WNBA players' paychecks and sponsorship opportunities depend on exactly what Caitlin did on Saturday. I think this game goes down as a turning point for the league. The ratings will prove it. And now it's up to the league to ride the tide. If you're still here, drop a trophy in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you next time.